Hey everybody, my name's Kelly Conrad. For those of you that don't know me, my husband Tanner and I run the Young Adults Ministry at Hillside Community Church in Bristol. And so I was actually asked to share my testimony this week. And at first I was like, it's been a while since I've shared my testimony, which is not, I don't think, a good thing. I just kind of assume everybody knows my story at this point, but I realize that many of you don't. And so it's kind of exciting and nerve-wracking, to say the least, to try to share this. My testimony is actually a series of events that happened in my life. So I'm going to try to break it down for you the best that I can. It's a long story. And if you have like 2 hours, I could always sit down with you one-on-one when quarantine ends and give you my full story. But for now, I'm just going to give you the little bit that I can. And everything kind of ties in together, and you'll see how and why as I explain. So growing up, I grew up in a broken home. My parents divorced when I was around 6 or 7 years old. And that was just normal. That was just normal for me. I felt like it was not normal to have a family that has a mom and a dad and not a stepmom and stepdad or anything like that. So I always grew up with 4 parents, or at least 3 and like a 4th. My stepmom really came along and took the lead at, being a stepmom and taking care of my sister and I. So I'm very thankful for that. But we grew up, at least my sister and I, we grew up in a Catholic church. We went to Catholic middle school because our parents kind of made us do that. And I never really followed. Like, I ended up almost failing a religion class and having to stay back almost because I didn't understand religion. So when I got the opportunity, I kind of skipped out of going to church after middle school. Kind of did the whole public high school and just lived my life the way that I wanted to. I really didn't have, I had a sense of who God was, but it was like, if you sin, you're going to hell and you have to be this perfect saint. And I couldn't live up to that expectation. And I knew I couldn't. I didn't want to put myself in that kind of stress, whereas I'm already living in this world that is super stressful. So I went about my high school life, and then right after high school is when a lot of things kind of took a turn for me. I was in a high school relationship that lasted 4 years. He was my high school sweetheart. He was my first relationship, and so all I understood was puppy love on top of manipulation. And after that, I kind of grew to just be a people pleaser. I always had this emptiness, this void in me that I had to fill, and I didn't know how to. And so the only way I knew was to be that reliable person for others, and hopefully that good person in me would give me that fulfillment that I needed. And unfortunately for me, it turned into a situations where I was used, abused, manipulated in a lot of toxic relationships. And so it led me down this really, really dark path. 2010, I ended up in a really, really bad relationship, to the point where I had a suicide plan. And it's something that I never tried to return back to because it was such a dark time in my life. But I had a plan. I was in a really, like I said, a bad relationship. It was toxic all around. I was physically hurt. I was emotionally, mentally hurt. I was at one point kidnapped. I mean, it was a bad situation for me to be in. And I came to the acceptance of that this world, my family, my friends, they would be better off without me in it. And I accepted their grievance, if that made any sense. I kind of pictured myself out of their lives and knew that they would have to go through the hardship of, burying me, essentially. And I accepted that. But I didn't realize that I didn't accept it wholly. I accepted what my parents would have to go through. I accepted what my friends would have to go through, all my family members. I felt that this world was better without me. And so the day that I planned out the suicide, I essentially was going to drive myself off a cliff. I was going to speed at a ridiculous speed at a time of day that I wouldn't be able to harm anybody else, because again, I love people, and I always had that heart for people. And so something came over me to just almost challenge God. And I said to him, I specifically remember saying to God, I have always known you to be real. I've never doubted that you weren't. But prove to me why I should be existing in this world. Because clearly I was scared of going to hell. But I knew that killing yourself was a direct line. And I had a slight willingness to live if God proved himself to me, essentially. And it sounds so bad to say, but in that moment, God revealed himself to me in a way that I would have never expected. He kind of gave me a vision of my sister, and in a split second, just a picture of my sister. And that was the one person I didn't accept grievance over, because my sister is truly like one of the closest people to me. That caused me to kind of stop in my tracks, literally. Clearly, I was very emotional and crying my eyes out, and I ended up in the hospital. I self-admitted at 2 points, and I went through a lot of counseling for mental health and really got through it. But I didn't ever thank God for that. I didn't give him the credit that was owed. And so the real moment actually happened about a year and a half later. I had always felt called to join the military for whatever reason. My friends and some of my family members didn't have the confidence in me that I would last throughout basic training. And I didn't have that confidence because they didn't have that confidence. My self-identity relied on what people thought of me. And a lot of people had a lot of doubts about me. They felt I was very weak, very just, I can't do it. I'm too girly. I'm too emotional. And I believed them. And I went through basic training, and my goal was just to survive and get through it mentally. Disclaimer, I got through basic training. I got into the military through a waiver because of my mental health. I got cleared by the doctors, and I get a mental health check-in. I think it's like every other year now, but when I first joined, it was like every 6 months. So anyways, there was one specific moment. We went to church almost every week, well, pretty much every week, to stay away from the MTIs. But there was one specific moment I remember, and shout out to Cheyenne Lee if she's watching this, because we got to sit down and talk about why we joined. And a handful of us didn't get to share because we were either at the doctor's or on what was called CQ, which is like security duty. And I was on the security duty, so I didn't get a chance to share my reason. But our element leaders in our dorm chief really took the time to sit down with the few of us that didn't get to share, to listen to us. And Cheyenne was the last to speak. And I didn't have a reason. I just said, I don't know, I always wanted to join, and I want to prove people wrong. And I remember saying, and she was so genuine in saying that God had called her and her husband to join the military for whatever reason. And that blew my mind. I was like, why does God talk to you that way, but he doesn't talk to me that way? It just didn't make sense. But throughout basic training, they gave out these little New Testament Bibles, and I would read through Psalms the 8 weeks that I was there. Returning home, I kind of fell back into my old habits, my old ways, and I found myself spiraling down within a few months. I kind of put my identity in a relationship that completely got ruined. I mean, he cheated on me and I wanted to stay, and then he broke up with me, and I was trying to do whatever I could to make him come back, and nothing was working. So I just remember one moment that I was like at my lowest, and I remember being like, I don't want those thoughts again. I don't want that plan again that I had just a year and a half ago of driving my car off a cliff. But I need to figure out a way to realize that I'm here on this earth for a reason. And in that moment, I remember I was at my dad's house, and on my nightstand was a New Testament basic training Bible that I just let sit and collect dust. And I remember just falling to my knees in that moment and just praying and saying to God, like, I need you. I need you. And I fully surrendered my heart to God. In that moment, I said, I don't know what I need to do. I don't know what I need to say, but show me where to go. And it was like, the best way I can describe it is he lifted a weight I never knew was there. I felt like I was carrying the weight of the entire world on my shoulders, and I didn't realize it until I gave it and surrendered it fully to God. So that was a moment in 2012, February of 2012. I gave my life to Christ, and I remember reaching out to my mom. Again, I didn't have too close a relationship. I do now because of Christ. I get to see her walk through this life with Christ, which is amazing. And I see more of my family members doing that. And it blows my mind how good God is. God really does use you for a purpose. And I reached out to my mom that day that I surrendered my life and asked her where I can go to church. And of course, she recommended a Catholic church. And I said, no. I don't want Catholic. I want a non-denominational Christian church. I will fall asleep in Catholic church. And she had me reach out to a friend of hers, Sue Ellen Karen. Shout out to Sue Ellen. And I did. I reached out to her. And that week, I actually started at Hillside. I didn't even go to service. I went to their young adults that week. And I think that's why I have such a heart for the young adults, is because that's where I started in my journey, in my walk with Christ. I was about to be 21 years old at the time. And yeah, I just walked right into Hillside Community Church's young adults group. That Sunday I went to church and I met Sheena. And I remember meeting Sheena. I don't think I will ever forget that. But yeah, I've been walking this life with Christ ever since, and I love sharing my story. If you want to know more details, please reach out to me. I have no problem sharing the gory details with you. As awful as a walk that I had, it led me to where I am today, and I have a wonderful husband who I met at church. We met through Hillside, and now we're a year and a half in, we have a baby on the way, and we're just super excited. And yeah, so that's my testimony. I hope that it's not too long for you guys. My life story is a roller coaster of emotions. So, if you have any questions about the young adults, please feel free to reach out to me. My Facebook is Kelly Conrad. You can message me. You can message my husband, Tanner Conrad. And yeah, that's my story. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you have a great rest of your week. Bye.